Well, we are officially more than halfway through season 2 of The Last of Us, and I'm already sad about that. The season gets better with each episode. Secrets, of which there are some, Dina specifically, but we finally get to meet Jeffrey Wright's character, Isaac, and he is a stone cold killer in the games. He was kind of Abby's mentor, and I'm wondering how much of that they're going to show with 3 episodes left. Finally get to meet Isaac and how just heartless he is. So he was a Fedra agent in 2018. He was a leader of a Fedra group, and then we see how dead cold he is by meeting up with the WLF, and then he just straight up kills the rest of his crew, except one guy that seemed to be new. One thing about watching so many movies and shows and being familiar with screenwriting, I always can guess things. Sometimes I will verbatim guess the next line of dialogue someone's going to say, usually when it's something kind of cheesy. There are so many moments where I can tell, all right, I know what that is. Example is after we first meet Isaac, we cut to Ellie and Dena, and we see them in Seattle. An unusual thing that had on screen was Seattle Day 1, and that is a very game-specific reference. I'm trying to see how that will play out on the show. I do not see why they would do that. Does that mean every episode they're going to say Seattle Day 2 now? Or are they going to skip ahead between episodes and it'll be like Seattle Day 10? I don't see the point of doing it, even though that is directly from the games. Very odd that they did that in the show. They were in some type of store and they're finding some stuff, and then Dina sees something, but we don't see what she sees. But I knew immediately that it meant that she found a pregnancy test. They just never actually showed it exactly what it was. This was a pretty intense episode. First with meeting Isaac. Killing was like nothing to him. We see a specifically vicious scene, which is cuts 2 years later from 2018, where Isaac is actually torturing a Seraphite, or as he likes to call them, a scar, because they had those scars on each side of their face. And this Seraphite just keeps saying, I'm a Seraphite, not a scar. But that's just what they call them. That's their derogatory term for them, though Scar is actually kind of a cool name, to be honest. He's saying it as if he's insulting him, like Scar. That sounds like a pretty cool nickname, actually. The Seraphite was defiant and completely devoted to their god, their quote-unquote god. This hero that I believe that will somehow save them. We get to see firsthand how vicious they are with seeing some WLF agents hung from the ceiling with their guts hanging out so they get disemboweled. So the Seraphites are pretty hardcore, but they also just only use bladed and bow and arrows. They don't use guns. We continue to see the development of the relationship between Dina and Ellie, and at this point in the games, Jesse is with them, because there's a moment later when they go into a theater to stay safe. That is something that does happen a little later. And this was the episode where when I was checking out the behind the scenes or random pics people took, I saw that they were shooting in Chinatown in Vancouver. And because I used to live in Vancouver, I recognized it immediately from those shots. But then seeing how they actually had it looking in the show with the blue screen and all the added effects they do to the street with all the grass and the plants. That's a pretty busy street. It's on Main Street. When you go down Main Street, it turns right into Chinatown. Whenever I get the bus, we would go right through Chinatown on the way to Vancouver Film School. She used to live near Queen Elizabeth Park. If you live in Vancouver and you know where that is, Queen Elizabeth Park is a very nice little park in Vancouver. So I recognized Chinatown even with all the grass and outcroppings on it. Curious about location-wise, why they would specifically pick an area that they know is going to be busy, like traffic-wise, to be able to block off. I mean, there's no way to not block off a street like that completely when it's like that. There's no shooting and then people and cars stand back and then they cut and then people can go ahead. Not when the street looks like that. And it almost makes you wonder, all right, they could have just totally made it on a set, on a lot somewhere. So it's always interesting to see why they decide to go with relocations. Then we also get our first look at the WLF, the wolf, in action. We don't get to see the main wolves we're looking for, being Abby and her crew. It's been 2 episodes and we have not seen Abby at all. Considering they had 2 Ellie episodes on a road, I'm wondering if they're going to do 2 Abbies. There's 3 episodes left, so I feel like next episode is going to be a Abby-centric episode, if not completely. But then again, there's that question of like, how exactly are they going to handle the game and how they switch around? Are they going to do that in the show? Or maybe they will just have the rest of the season be Ellie, and then the next season be Abby, because there's a whole other part in the games with Abby. With this show, are they going to just have Ellie for the rest of the season and then essentially her just trying to get her revenge? Do we get to see Abby again? I think we're going to see her again. Maybe next episode could be a just her episode. One of the episodes left could be a just her episode. Just so you know right now, we are not going to see Ellie and Abby on the same screen together in this season. I'm about 95% sure that now in between the rest of the season, we're not going to see Ellie and Abby in the same scene together other than that one time with Joel. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't see them actually meeting until somewhere later in season 3. So we're going to have to go through a whole other, this season finishing, and then basically 2 years off. If they time it the same way they did between first and last season, it'll be roughly 2 years between seasons. So it'll be 2027 before we find out. That feels so far away. And then we see another bit of Dina's tracking ability, or what type of ability you would call it, where she's good with maps and navigation. And then we see that there's a big old WLF painting on a dish, and it's a pretty obvious not a good thing to go towards, though Ellie is immediately like, let's go, which shows her kind of still in one level lack of experience areas that Dina has. Obviously a trap, so why would we go there? So then they end up chilling inside of a music store, which leads to Ellie playing the guitar, which is a moment they had in the games, and even the way they shot it visually. And then of course Dina comes up and starts watching her, and the amount of love in her eyes is pretty palpable. I'm really sick of Take On Me by Aha. It's a nice song, but why do we need to have to keep hearing it? I mean, where I work, they have the classic station on, and that song comes on at least once a day. But as she's playing, Dina's like falling madly in love with her. She actually cries a little bit. Curious to see if that's her emotions becoming to be affected by her being pregnant. I think this may have been one of the most like the games episode. Just how in season 1 they had lots of moments that are from game 1. But here they had a lot of stealthy stuff, which was a big part of the games. Instead of attacking, especially if there's lots of enemies, you just lay low and you hide behind desks. And that's exactly what they did here with Ellie, like Ellie and Dina hiding behind desks. Just even the way they angled and shot it was almost shot for shot from the game. They cross paths with the WLF when Ellie is trying to escape. She does another stealth thing, which happens in the games, is she comes up behind someone, jumps them, but kind of stupidly. She's not all that stealthy because she tries to sneak up on the guy and then makes a noise. Again, it shows she still has a lot to learn. But then, so then we get to see her hand-to-hand experience that she was learning from episode 1, and how well she's able to handle herself against an actual real opponent who's not a friend pulling their punches. And this guy is twice the size of her. They're wrestling around, and then another WLF comes up. Dina takes him out from behind, and then Ellie stabs the guy in the neck. And that's just like in the games, where you come up behind someone and you stab him in the neck. The amount of brutality they go for in the games is pretty hardcore. When I was playing the games, I remember actually being like, oh man, does the enemy really need to sound that awful when they're dying? Game 2 is a lot more brutal than Game 1 for things like that. With the WLF chasing after them, they find themselves in a basement subway system. Definitely the tensest moment of the entire season so far, where a horde of clickers come at them. And then we get to see another example of a new element that they added that's not in the games, of the hive mind of all the clickers and how they're basically all connected as one. And with another nod to season 1, where somebody dropped a New Year's Eve sparkler right next to the pipes that were getting and the broken pipes that had the cordyceps in them moved around a little. I mean, I don't even know what you would call them. An antennae version of the cordyceps. And then here again, the WLF throws some flares, and the heat from the flares affects the cordyceps, almost immediately sends a wave of clickers their way. And there's this moment where, just like episode 1, Dina is kind of somehow counting in her head. I'm not sure how she can somehow knows how many clickers are there, but she counts like 1, then to 5, and then there's more because there's way more than 5. And it's a pretty tense moment, very reminiscent of the games again, where you're overwhelmed and you can't attack. There's just too many. In this moment, Ellie seems to be a bit more. Dina was definitely freaking out, and Ellie was too, but she's still able to maintain a bit more level of calm. But of course, they escape. But it was quite harrowing, and they almost didn't make it out alive. I keep forgetting that no one knows Ellie's immune except Joel and her. I guess now it's just her. As they're leaving, a clicker grabs a hold of Dina. So Ellie just straight up offers up her arm as a sacrifice in a way. So the clicker bites her arm and they get away. This one little moment here from the show irked me a little bit was how immediately Dina's like, well, I guess I have to kill you. That moment I thought was maybe a bit too much, that she would immediately go there, even though it's clear that they're both getting closer. She's basically fallen in love with her after playing the guitar. But how quickly Dina was willing to just straight up shoot her was in one way commendable, but not going to give her any benefit of the doubt at all. Dina raises her gun at her. It's another tense moment. Ellie finally had to reveal that she is immune. Dina doesn't immediately believe her. Ellie tells her that she is immune and says, to prove it, you can keep your gun on me all night. In the morning, I'll still be the same person. She wakes up and Dina's actually been sitting there all night in the chair, right across from her, still ready to shoot. I'm like almost slightly disappointed in Dina for being so immediate. That sucks. I like you, but I gotta kill you. She sees that she's still the same, but even still, Dina is emotional. She's crying. And then another odd moment. Almost as soon as she decides, all right, I'm not going to kill her now, she's like, I'm pregnant. I thought that was a weird moment. But they were both sharing secrets. Ellie's immune and Dina's pregnant. The way that she decided to tell her right there and then immediately start making out, which in the games, that happened during the scene where they were smoking up. They started going at it, and here they go at it. They have a little moment. It was pretty intense as well, but it was a nice moment. I knew it was coming. Pretty sure it was going to happen somewhere in this episode. So Ellie and Dina officially finally hook up. Once she reveals that she's pregnant, another moment that I thought was a bit extreme was how she's immediately, well, we have a kid now, without even, hearing from Ellie if that's what she wants yet. It is what she wants. At the same time, you just found out you're pregnant yesterday, and you're already like, all right, I guess we're having kids now. It is Jesse's kid, to be clear. Not that we weren't surprised. So he doesn't even know yet, wherever he is right now. I'm wondering how much more we're going to see of the Jackson crew with Tommy and Jesse. It's almost kind of a shame because I really want to see more of Gabriel Luna because of how stinking phenomenal he is. And yes, Isabela continues to get better with every episode. This was definitely her best episode. Her ability to show how her affection towards Ellie is almost better than Bella is at showing it towards her. Nothing against Bella, of course, and this was definitely her episode to shine. The way that she flopped around so much, to me, okay, is that pregnant emotions hitting in? She's very early on, so would her emotions be getting that fluctuating where she goes from about to kill Ellie, telling her she's pregnant, to jumping her bones, and then being like, hey, we're having a kid, without even hearing Ellie say, yes, let's have a kid. And even the way Ellie was immediately saying it, does she really want to have a kid? Or does she just want to be with Dina no matter what it takes? Of course, that almost immediately brings up the situation of, well, now you're in danger. Anytime Dina's in danger, two people are in danger. And then we end the episode with there being a war between, I'm not sure, it's the wolves and it's either Fedra or the Seraphites. It seems at this point that perhaps Fedra and the wolves have kind of agreed to stay out of certain areas. And considering that Isaac was brutally torturing this Seraphite individual who looked pretty young, 20s maybe, they wouldn't give up any information. So Isaac ends up actually killing him. Seeing that Isaac's, brutal ability to just kill without even having any feelings about it whatsoever. I mean, even going back to the opening scene, the way that he so callously takes a bunch of grenades, no emotion on his face, doesn't even look at him, throws it in the back of the van they're in, closes the door, and that's it. Boom. Then one guy comes out and he shoots him, so he's just completely dead inside. The one guy that he took with him, essentially, Isaac just says, all right, make your choice. I either kill you right now or you come with me. And he comes with him. And it also leaves you to wonder, okay, how much did this person go along with Isaac for fear of being killed? For how long? Did he eventually just agree? Was he somehow indoctrinated? And now he's suddenly fighting against Fedra, but also the Seraphites. But this in the story, in the show, where they are several years later, it's more about the wolves versus the Seraphites, and Fedra's pretty much just stayed out of that area. This was another spectacular episode. Every episode gets better, and it was a very intense episode as well. I mean, last episode was way more emotional with Joel dying the episode before that, so it was a bit slower. I thought it was a fine episode, and there's only 3 left, and I'm already getting sad because it's a spectacular season. I'm wondering if I'm going to like it more than season 1. The show itself is pretty stinking flawless. If you look at it, I mean, production-wise, there isn't a whole lot of things I can pick apart from it, except this episode and how up and down Dina's character was. I'm pregnant. I'm about to kill you. Never mind, I'm not going to kill you. Let's make out. So here we are in the latter half of season 2. And will the next episode be an Abby episode? I guess I could go online on YouTube and see if there's already a preview for the next episode, but now I don't know if I want to look. Maybe I want to wait to find out till it comes out to see if it will be an Abby episode. But there we have it. All my gamer Frangulums, another spectacular episode and another spectacular review from me, Tegan, the game adaptation newscast. And of course, like always, I didn't just immediately do this review right after I watched the episode. I would never do such a thing. Maybe I'm being sarcastic. Maybe I'm not. I will leave that up to you to figure that out. Please leave a comment below on what you think of this episode. I think it's the best episode of the season so far. Every episode has been spectacular in their own way. It was essentially kind of every part of the last 3 episodes mixed up into one. I'm saying the word episode too much. I would love to hear your comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to share, but don't forget to keep stinking gaming.